But my favorite are the single cutaway brown original country gentleman. That's what I think I got. I got to see the.
Stephen Stills became the first person inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice in one night.
They're in. Ladies and gentlemen, Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Buffalo Springfield gave the 60s For What It's Worth and Folk Rock Foundation.
I know we love, I know we didn't make our time. Find a world that's ours to keep.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash won a Grammy for Best New Artist. His solo debut remains the only album featuring both Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton. Military family upbringing exposed him to blues, folk, country, Latin music across the Americas.
I mean, they're the real thing. Like Eric Clapton was talking about when he talks about Jimmy.
Multi-instrumentalist, played guitar, bass, keyboards, organ on debut CSN album. These 8 bands shaped folk rock pioneers who defined a generation. 8. Lightnin' Hopkins. Texas bluesman Lightnin' Hopkins changed Stephen Stills' life in 1961.
Never been before.
The encounter hit like a lightning bolt through a young guitarist still finding his voice. Stills later declared Hopkins the first musician who got me off that hard. He tore my brains out. The raw emotion and technical mastery opened doors Stills never knew existed.
Of great vision, compassion. He's guileless. For a
Hopkins played country blues with dark rhythmic drive and powerful improvisation. His distinctive fingerstyle included bass, rhythm, lead, percussion simultaneously on single acoustic guitar. Born Centerville, Texas in 1912, Hopkins learned from Blind Lemon Jefferson and traveled the state playing beer joints and house parties. By 1946, he recorded for Aladdin Records and became one of most prolific blues artists ever, recording over 800 songs during career. His bruised, whiskey voice carried a singular mix of private pain and public celebration. Songs chronicled segregated South life with humor and humanity. Hopkins influenced everyone from Jimi Hendrix to Stevie Ray Vaughan. For Stills, Hopkins represented authentic American music tradition. That 1961 meeting planted a blues foundation that would grow through Buffalo Springfield, Crosby, Stills, Nash, into everything that followed. Stills later honored him by inviting Hopkins to his studio, family, rhythm section. The respect ran deep in both directions. 7. The Byrds. The Byrds showed Stephen Stills what folk rock could become.
There's some for me in the jingle jangle morning.
Roger McGuinn's 12-string Rickenbacker created a luminous jangle that defined mid-60s Los Angeles sound. David Crosby's soaring harmonies and interest in jazz and Indian ragas pushed boundaries beyond traditional folk. Gene Clark wrote melodically imaginative ballads while Chris Hillman brought bluegrass mandolin virtuosity. Together they transformed Bob Dylan songs into electric anthems. Their 1965 cover of Dylan's Mr. Tambourine Man hit #1 and broke British invasion's dominance of American charts.
I like eclectic music, I like things that have roots.
The Byrds proved folk could be rock, that acoustic guitars could go electric without losing soul. They pioneered psychedelic rock with 8 Miles High and country rock with Sweetheart of the Rodeo. Every innovation opened doors for bands like Buffalo Springfield to walk through. Stills met Crosby at Monterey Pop Festival in 1967 when Crosby filled in with Buffalo Springfield after Neil Young quit. That connection proved crucial. When Crosby got fired from Byrds in October 1967 over personality conflicts, he and Stills began jamming together in Laurel Canyon. Their voices blended instantly, creating the foundation for what became Crosby, Stills, Nash. The Byrds taught Stills how to merge folk authenticity with rock power. McGuinn's guitar work showed that electricity could be elegant. Crosby's vocal approach revealed possibilities beyond simple harmony. Hillman demonstrated how country and bluegrass could strengthen rock foundation. 6. The Hollies. The Hollies mastered British pop harmony before most Americans knew what hit them. Graham Nash and Alan Clark developed 3-part harmonies heavily influenced by Everly Brothers, creating infectious melodic cheer that dominated UK charts throughout the mid-60s. Their ringing guitars and hook-happy material made the top 20 almost 20 times in Britain. Songs like Bus Stop, Carrie Ann, and He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother demonstrated sophisticated production wrapped in accessible pop. Nash brought pop harmony expertise from Hollies when he joined Stills and Crosby in 1968. That precision made CSN's vocal blend possible. The Hollies taught Nash how voices could move air before hitting the microphone, creating a unique sonic fingerprint nobody else could replicate.
Roadies didn't want to do it because they couldn't figure out how to get together there. So Crosby and I got off the plane at LaGuardia, and
Their approach to layered harmonies became the foundation for everything CSN accomplished. The fateful moment happened at Johnny Mitchell's Laurel Canyon house in July 1968. Crosby and Stills played Nash their new song, You Don't Have to Cry. Nash listened intently, asked them to play it again, then again. On the third time through, he added his harmony part. The vocals gelled instantly, and all three realized they had unique vocal chemistry. Whatever sound Crosby Stills Nash has was born in 3 seconds, Nash later said. Without Hollies training Nash in immaculate harmonies and cutting-edge vocal arrangements, CSN's otherworldly sound would never have existed. The Hollies proved British bands could master American folk rock sensibilities while maintaining pop sophistication. Nash brought those lessons to California and helped create a soundtrack for an entire generation. 5. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Peter, Paul, and Mary showed Stephen Stills how folk could reach mainstream America.
How many times must the cannonballs fly?
Their 1962 debut album topped Billboard charts for 7 weeks and stayed in the top 10 for 10 months. 3-part harmonies combining Peter Yarrow and Paul Stuckey's tenors with Mary Travers' contralto created a clear, resonant sound that brought folk music from Greenwich Village coffeehouses to millions of living rooms. They made folk music accessible without losing its soul. Young Stills watched them prove harmony trios could achieve commercial success and artistic credibility simultaneously. Their covers of Pete Seeger's If I Had a Hammer and Bob Dylan's Blowin' in the Wind both hit the top 10 and won Grammy Awards. They performed at the 1963 March on Washington before Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Political activism through music became their trademark. Their influence on Crosby, Stills, Nash was direct and undeniable. 3 voices blending in perfect harmony, acoustic guitars, socially conscious lyrics, folk authenticity meeting pop accessibility. Peter, Paul, and Mary created the blueprint. When Stills, Crosby, and Nash first sang together in 1968, they knew exactly what they were attempting. They'd grown up hearing what 3 voices could accomplish when chemistry was perfect. Peter, Paul, and Mary proved folk trios could change the world while topping charts. 4. The Beatles. The Beatles changed everything for Steve. 31st, 1965, Cow Palace in San Francisco. Young Stills and his sister drove across western United States to see them. Paul McCartney was on fire that night, Stills recalled decades later. It was a life-changer. McCartney became one of his gods. Buffalo Springfield's debut album featured songs with Beatles-inflected spin. The British invasion showed Americans that rock could be a sophisticated art form. 4 Liverpool lads proved bands could write their own material, play their own instruments, and evolve beyond simple love songs. They demonstrated how folk music could go electric without losing authenticity. The Beatles pioneered studio experimentation that influenced Buffalo Springfield's approach to recording. Their vocal harmonies set the standard every harmony group measured against. When Crosby, Stills, Nash formed, they knew the Beatles had set an impossibly high bar. Bill Graham called CSNY the American Beatles in 1970, recognizing they'd inherited cultural importance after Fab Four disbanded. Stills took years getting relaxed enough around McCartney to open up. They became quite friendly. McCartney's graciousness was disarming, Stills said, but tough enough. Nothing toughened you up like playing Germany. The Beatles showed the entire generation what was possible when musicians refused to accept limitations. They proved rock and roll could be art, commerce, revolution simultaneously. Without the Beatles, the folk rock movement might never have exploded across California. 3. The Jimi Hendrix Experience. Jimi Hendrix probably had more effect on my music than anybody else, Stills declared in 1971. He defined modernization of old country blues. When both lived in London, they became inseparable. Stills was the lone American Hendrix could really speak to. They'd hang out to decompress from music industry pressures. Hendrix and Neil Young taught Stills to play lead guitar. Stills literally followed Hendrix around for 2 years like his guru. People thought I was a groupie, Stills recalled, but I was going to music school. Hendrix kicked me in but one night when I was playing rhythm and said, "Go on, play lead." Stills drove everyone crazy the next 2 years learning it. Had to have a stack of Marshalls and stuff. They jammed for 14 hours once at Stills' Malibu house. Made up 15 rock and roll songs but forgot them all because nothing was taped. The sheriff's deputy overheard them playing, parked a police car outside just to listen while fielding radio calls. Told them not to worry about anything, he'd look out for them. 2. Eric Clapton and Cream. When Cream arrived in Los Angeles, there was a knock on Stills' door within an hour. He just came in, took guitar out of case and played Bluebird for Clapton. "I hear you like this." That moment began deep mutual respect between two guitar masters. Cream pioneered fusion of blues, rock, and psychedelia that changed everything. Jack Bruce on bass, Ginger Baker on drums, Clapton on guitar formed rock's first supergroup in 1966. Their extended improvisations on songs like Crossroads and Spoonful showed Stills that blues could be stretched, explored, and taken into completely new territories. Wheels of Fire proved double albums could showcase extended guitar solos. Sunshine of Your Love and White Room became blueprints for how heavy blues rock should sound. Clapton became friends during London recording sessions for Stills' solo debut. "I bumped into Eric one evening," Stills recalled, "and night degenerated into an endless jam of tequila. Then we did an album track in the studio. His solo was one take and he got fabulous." Clapton played the scorching lead on Go Back Home. Later admitted Buffalo Springfield's Questions directly influenced his song Let It Rain. Cream showed Stills that power trios could be both commercially successful and artistically revolutionary. "I absolutely adore the man," Stills said. 1. The band. At the very top sits a group that changed everything. When Eric Clapton heard music from Big Pink in 1968, he immediately disbanded Cream to form Blind Faith. The album convinced him to abandon psychedelic excess for roots music. If it had that effect on Clapton, imagine what it did to Stills. Robbie Robertson, Rick Danko, Levon Helm, Richard Manuel, and Garth Hudson backed Bob Dylan before recording their revolutionary debut. Released July 1968, music from Big Pink rejected psychedelic overload for rustic Americana. Songs like The Weight, Tears of Rage, and I Shall Be Released sounded centuries removed from their era. Front porch simplicity instead of studio-saturated excess. The band mastered 5 voices singing together, each ragged and weary in its own way, contributing on its own timetable when stirred by spirit. They played 12 instruments between 5 members. Their sound blended country, blues, gospel, classical, and rock into something completely new. Music writer Ian MacDonald called it the most influential record in rock history. Stills heard what Clapton heard. Back to basics authenticity. 5 musicians creating an organic collection of songs without studio tricks or psychedelic pretension. When Cream disbanded because of this album, the message was clear. These 8 acts shaped Stephen Stills into a folk rock pioneer. From Texas blues masters to British invasion giants, from harmony perfectionists to guitar revolutionaries, each taught him something essential. Together they created the foundation for Buffalo Springfield, CSN, and everything that followed. Subscribe for more music history.